What brought the Roman Empire to its knees wasn't an army, but the lie of a single man. The greatest betrayal in history and the end of 3 legions. Let's begin. Autumn of AD 9. In his palace in Rome, Emperor Augustus was tearing out his hair and beard in horror, banging his head against the door frames and shouting, "Quintili var, legiones rede!" Meaning, Quintilius Varus, legiones rede, give me back my legions. But those legions would never return. In this event, known by historians as the Clades Variana, Rome's 3 elite legions, around 20,000 soldiers, vanished like ghosts in the swamps of northern Europe. So how did the world's most disciplined army get completely annihilated by tribes the Romans called barbarians? In this video, we will examine not just a battle, but the story of faulty maps, blinding arrogance, and a perfectly engineered death zone, the truth of Kalkriese. To Rome, Germania was already a conquered land. They were so confident that they appointed not a soldier, but a bureaucrat, Publius Quinctilius Varus. Varus was more of a tax collector and judge than a hardened military commander. His mission wasn't to fight, but to bring Roman law and taxation to these wild forests. The Romans were gravely mistaken. They assumed the Germanic peoples were becoming civilized because they traded in Roman markets. In reality, the Germans weren't submitting, they were simply waiting for the right moment. Believing the region was completely peaceful, Varus even relaxed standard reconnaissance procedures. And thus, the disaster began with this overconfidence. Yet sitting at Varus's table was someone who dined with him and called him friend, Arminius. He was a Germanic prince, but taken to Rome as a child, granted Roman citizenship, and even awarded the rank of equus. Arminius knew exactly how the Roman army thought, moved, and, most importantly, where its weaknesses lay. By telling Varus that there is a small uprising in the north, he lured him off the safe routes and onto a path that wasn't even on the maps. The unbelievable part is this. Arminius's own father-in-law, Segestes, personally came to Varus and begged, "Arminius is setting a trap for you. Arrest us." And what did Varus do? He dismissed it as jealousy and gossip between tribal chiefs. The intelligence was on the table, but Varus's arrogance blinded him to the truth. When Varus marched his army into the forest, he didn't have a modern map. The Romans saw geography as simple lines from point A to point B. Arminius, however, wielded geography as a weapon. Do you know where he led them? To the location confirmed by modern archaeology, the Kalkriese Narrows. It was a natural choke point. To the south rose the steep, forested Kalkriese Hill. To the north lay the massive, man-eating Great Bog. In between was a sandy path, narrowing in places to just 20 meters. And the most terrifying detail? Archaeological excavations show that the Germans had built a zigzagging earthen wall stretching for kilometers along the hillside. This was no sudden ambush. It was a meticulously prepared death zone, constructed over weeks. And then hell began. Torrential rain soaked the Roman soldiers, making their leather shields heavy and their bowstrings slack. The long, stretched-out Roman columns sank into the mud. When the first attack came, the Romans couldn't even form up. The Germans emerged from gates in the wall they had built, hurled volleys of spears, then disappeared again. The Romans were trapped between the bog to the north and the wall to the south. Neither the famous tortoise formation nor the cavalry was effective. By the end of the 3rd day, realizing escape was impossible, Varus and his senior officers committed suicide according to Roman custom, unwilling to be captured and tortured. Leaderless, the army was completely slaughtered in the swamp. For centuries, the site of the battle was considered a legend. Until 1987, when an amateur archaeologist, Tony Clunn, discovered Roman sling bullets with his metal detector. The coins found bore the stamp VAR. These belonged directly to Varus's army. Even worse, the mass bone pits described by the Roman general Germanicus years later were archaeologically confirmed. And the result? Rome abandoned its dream of expanding to the Elbe River and accepted the Rhine as its permanent frontier. This decision shaped the map of modern Europe. Had Varus won, the German language might not exist today. Perhaps all of Europe would be speaking Latin. Clades Variana engraved into history the cost of trusting maps instead of the reality on the ground, and of underestimating the enemy. What do you think? If Varus had listened to Suggesties, how would history have changed? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.